Hey gamers, my name is Tara, and today I'm going to be reviewing Remedy Entertainment's psychological thriller, Alan Wake. For the past 10 weeks, I've been playing this game while simultaneously analyzing it for its artistic and narrative qualities.
Alan, shh, baby. It was just a nightmare.
In this review, I'll also discuss how two of the most prevalent controversies in digital games culture today, violence, and sexuality and gender representation come into play. I'll be going through the main plot of the game, so if you're looking to avoid spoilers, then, well, I hope your memory's as bad as Alan's is.
Damn it.
So, get your flashlight ready as we delve into this dark episode of... So, here we go. Narrative. Alan Wake is a beautiful game filled with incredibly realistic nature scenes right out of the heart of the Pacific Northwest. The storytelling is fantastic and is told in a style similar to Max Payne, with Alan narrating his progress every so often in story style to the player.
My name is Alan Wake. I'm a writer.
The game opens up in the fictional town of Bright Falls, Washington, where our hero, Alan Wake, has come with his wife Alice for a much-needed vacation. Alan is a best-selling crime fiction novelist, though it's revealed that he's been in a writing slump for the past 2 years, and hasn't written a single thing since the release of his last book, titled The Sudden Stop. Alice, who is a sufferer of a severe phobia of darkness, recommended Bright Falls as a vacation destination for Alan because she believes that a local therapist named Dr. Emil Hartman, who specializes in treating artists for various conditions, can get Alan past his lengthy writer's block period. Acquiring the keys to their vacation cabin from an unsettling old woman,
I have the key for you and instructions on how to get to the lake.
the two plan on having a relaxing time together, away from the hustle and bustle of their home in New York City. Alice, however, is determined to get Alan back on track, and mentions that their beautiful vacation setting would be a great place for a book. She even goes so far as to give him a typewriter while they're away, clearly expecting his creative juices to start flowing again after a visit to Dr. Hartman.
Damn, Alice, everyone...
Unfortunately, Alan isn't very receptive to the idea of writing again. Pained by the fact that it's taken him 2 years to write a book since his last successful novel, and overwhelmed by the expectation to write another while on vacation, he storms out of the cabin, leaving Alice behind since he knows she won't follow him due to her fear of the dark. But not long after he heads outside to cool off, all of the lights go out in the cabin, and Alice is heard screaming in terror from inside. In a panic, Alan runs back to the cabin to calm his hysteric wife. He bursts upstairs where he finds that in her frenzy, Alice has stumbled outside, over the balcony railing and into the dark lake, where she disappears under the water. Alan dives over the broken balcony railing into the lake to attempt to save her and splashes into the water below. Now, here's where things start to get a little dark. Alan wakes up in a crashed car with no memory of how he got there or why, and Alice is nowhere to be found. Confused as to how he got there, he heads for the nearest gas station in the distance, having to make his way through the woods to get help. During his journey, Alan finds manuscript pages from a book that he's apparently written, but he doesn't remember doing it. The manuscript is entitled Departure, which is a book Alan was going to write, but never had the motivation to finish. The page he finds describes the protagonist of the story being attacked by an axe murderer in the woods, which, much to Alan's dismay, comes true exactly as it was written.
Non-refundable reservation deposit required. Fair and square.
Here, we meet the primary enemies of the game, referred to as Taken, which start out as normal people that Alan meets until they become taken over by a mysterious and evil force known only as the Dark Presence, the main antagonist of the game. When Alan reaches the gas station, he finds that Deerfest, the local festival that was 2 weeks away when he first arrived, is now only 7 days from now, meaning that somehow Alan is missing an entire week of his life. Alan is found by the local sheriff and tells her frantically about the cabin where Alice went missing. However, the sheriff is confused. There is no cabin on Cauldron Lake, and there hasn't been since a volcanic eruption destroyed it in the 70s. The two drive to the cabin, and sure enough, the lake is empty. Desperate to find out the secret to his amnesia and to find his missing wife, Alan goes on a terrifying adventure through the town and surrounding woods of Bright Falls, fighting the creepy Taken and being haunted by disturbing visions of Alice under the lake.
I'm losing it. I gotta get out of here.
At one point, Alan gets a phone call from a man who has purportedly kidnapped Alice and is holding her hostage.
Hello?
The ransom? The strange manuscript pages that Alan keeps finding scattered throughout the forest and town. After meeting the kidnapper outside town at a lookout named Lover's Peak, the kidnapper tells Alan that he has 2 days to bring him the complete manuscript, or Alice will be killed.
I need a week.
2 days. The old Bright Falls coal mine is nearby. You can find it easy, city boy.
He eventually reaches the coal mine, now turned into a museum, where the kidnapper doesn't even bother to show up. Finally bothering to call, the kidnapper eventually tells Alan to meet him at Mirror Peak through another Taken-infested part of the woods. But when he gets there...
We don't have his wife. We don't know where she is.
Her purported kidnapper was eaten up by the Dark Presence before it attacked me.
It turns out it was only a sham to get the manuscript from Alan. At that point, the Dark Presence flings both men into the air and over the railing, where Alan splashes into the lake for a second time. This time, Alan wakes up in the Cauldron Lake Lodge, a mental institute for artists, led by Dr. Emil Hartman, the man Alice tried to get Alan to see. Hartman tells Alan that his wife has actually died, and that all of the events that have transpired were only figments of his tortured imagination, unable to cope with Alice's death.
So I'm just going to say this. Alice is dead.
After being reunited with Barry, Alan's comic relief sidekick and agent, who's been being held against his will in a supply closet by Dr. Hartman, the two burst inside Hartman's office, where they find a huge amount of manuscript pages, all that Alan had on him and more. Dr. Hartman knows the jig is up at this point, and asks Alan to work together, saying that with Alan's creativity, they can make something beautiful.
Hartman, shut up! Barry, get out of here. I'll catch up with you. Get a car.
Oh, Al, let's just...
Go!
Wake, listen to me. This is a mistake. Don't you see? Together we can create something absolutely wonderful. With your ability and mine.
However, the Dark Presence begins to engulf the lodge, and it kills Dr. Hartman. Alan begins to realize that the Andersons, two of the patients at the lodge, understand what is going on, and so heads to their farm along with Barry. When they arrive at the farm, they find a hidden message that they left on an old record that says, "Find the Lady of the Light." They then remember a woman, Cynthia Weaver, who was clutching a lantern in the diner Alan visited upon arriving in Bright Falls. She also seems to be strangely obsessed with maintaining all of the lights in the city, making sure they work.
Have a nice day now. Very good. I'll come back later on to remind you, just in case.
The two agree to find Cynthia the next morning and spend the rest of the evening over a bottle of the Andersons' homemade moonshine, made from the water of Cauldron Lake. As Alan falls asleep, he dreams vividly of the night of Alice's disappearance, his near drowning, and, for the first time, what happened in the missing week afterward.
In the dark, I'd written for days, a week, almost a complete manuscript of a novel entitled Departure. Jagger had been my editor, whispering in my ear, making sure that the unfolding story would make her more and more powerful. I thought I was saving Alice.
You can help me!
About time. Young man, I've been waiting a very long time for you.
When Alan finds Cynthia, she tells him to go to the well-lit room, where she's been guarding something for him for 3 decades.
It's in the well-lit room.
Excuse me?
What you'll need to drive the darkness back. The well-lit room is at the dam. I've built the room to keep it safe.
It's also revealed that she's been the one writing all of the mysterious, light-reactive paint messages, leaving them behind so that others could find their way in the dark. And so, Alan, Barry, Cynthia, and the sheriff all meet in the well-lit room. Here, Alan finds a page written by Thomas Zane. Earlier in the game, Alan learns that Zane was an author from the 1970s who lived in the cabin at Cauldron Lake, and who was also touched by the dark presence, like Alan. Zane's lover at the time, Barbara Jagger, drowned in the lake, and Zane, in a desperate attempt to bring her back, wrote her soul back into existence, but it came back tainted and twisted, accidentally writing an evil presence from the lake into the world instead, one that wears her face. Zane's page mentions a clicker, a snapped-off light switch that Alan was given by his mother that turns on a magical light imbued with childhood power that can chase the darkness away. At this moment, Alan knows exactly what he needs to do. Go back to Cauldron Lake and use the clicker to save Alice and the town of Bright Falls.
I'd given the clicker to Alice, yet it was here. Zane had written it into existence in a story I had written.
Alan drives to Cauldron Lake by himself, dives in, and presses the clicker. He ends up not underwater, but in a world filled with darkness, as he stumbles upon giant, illuminated pieces of text that the Dark Presence uses to manifest itself and other objects. When the pathway to the cabin appears, he hears Barbara talking and Alice screaming for help. When Alan heads inside to save Alice, he sees Barbara in front of him. A hole in her heart from Tom's attempt in the 1970s to kill her.
Someone else to dream me free.
He grabs her, thrusts his hand in the hole in her chest, and clicks the clicker. The light fills her body, destroying her from the inside out, and the cabin is engulfed in light. Alan then walks to the typewriter in the study and starts writing, saying that he knows how to write the ending and that the scales need to balance. Everything has a price. The ending to Alan Wake is fairly ambiguous and is left to each player's interpretation. A flashback of Alan jumping in the lake to save Alice occurs, and a reversed time-lapse over Bright Falls plays, rewinding time. Alice is then shown swimming out of Cauldron Lake and sitting on the dock, calling out.
Alan?
To be honest, the ending actually made me mad the first time I saw it. It was ambiguous, vague, and I got the feeling that it was meant to be powerful and artsy, but it just fell flat. It's grown on me a little, but if you're like me and follow the narrative to a T, you're going to have unanswered questions. Overall, I give Alan Wake 8 flashlight batteries from a pack of 10. Until next time.